Hong Kong, March 15th, Wednesday morning, 11:47 a.m. What happens when the laws of physics meet someone who doesn't believe in limitations? Bruce Lee removes his shoes on the film set of Way of the Dragon. The camera crew prepares for what they think is a routine action sequence. The stunt coordinator double-checks the safety wires that aren't there. In exactly 13 seconds, 47 witnesses will question everything they know about human capability. Bruce walks toward the wall, not to it, but up it. The cameraman's hands freeze on the controls. The director's coffee cup slips from his fingers, shattering on the concrete floor, but nobody hears it. They're all watching a 135-pound man run horizontally across a vertical wall like gravity simply doesn't apply to him. Cut, someone finally manages to scream, but it's too late. What just happened will become Hollywood's most guarded secret for the next 47 years. Golden Harvest Studios sits heavy with Hong Kong's infamous humidity this March morning. The warehouse-turned-soundstage stretches 200 feet long, its corrugated metal walls radiating heat like an oven. Industrial fans whir overhead, doing little more than pushing the thick air around in circles. The smell of fresh paint mingles with cigarette smoke and the ever-present aroma of street food wafting in from outside. Bruce Lee stands in the center of it all, a coiled spring of energy in his signature black pants and no shirt. At 32 years old, he's at the absolute peak of his physical powers. His body, a mere 135 pounds stretched across a 5'7" frame, looks almost fragile compared to the burly stuntmen surrounding him. They don't know it yet, but they're about to witness something that will haunt their dreams and challenge their understanding of what's possible. The film is Way of the Dragon, Bruce's directorial debut. He's not just the star, he's the writer, director, and fight choreographer. The pressure would crush most people. For Bruce, it's fuel. He's spent the last 6 weeks pushing boundaries, creating fight sequences that make his previous work look tame. But today he's planning something different, something that shouldn't be possible. Robert Klaus, the American cinematographer brought in to elevate the film's visual quality, adjusts his state-of-the-art 35mm Mitchell camera. It's the same model used to film Lawrence of Arabia, capable of capturing 24 frames per second with crystal clarity. In 1972, it's the pinnacle of filming technology. In about 5 minutes, it won't be nearly enough. "Bruce, we need to discuss the wirework for this scene," calls out Sammo Hung, the stunt coordinator. At 20 years old, Sammo is already a legend in Hong Kong action cinema. He's worked with Bruce before. He knows that look in his eyes, the one that says conventional thinking is about to get thrown out the window. "No wires," Bruce says simply, stretching his legs against a wooden crate. The set goes quiet. Even the fans seem to pause their endless rotation. "I'm sorry, what?" Sammo's voice cracks slightly. "The wall run, without wires?" Bruce smiles. It's the smile of a man who spent his entire life being told what's impossible. The same smile he wore when Western directors said Asian actors could only play servants or villains. The same smile he had when traditionalists said his Jeet Kune Do philosophy would never work. The same smile that's about to break another barrier. "Trust me." Raymond Chow, the producer and head of Golden Harvest Studios, nervously checks his watch. They're already behind schedule. Every minute costs money they don't have. This film is a massive gamble. The studio's biggest budget to date at $130,000. In Hollywood, that's craft services money. In Hong Kong, it's make or break. "Bruce, we need to be practical here," Raymond says, his voice carrying the weight of financial responsibility. "The insurance alone." "Raymond." Bruce's voice cuts through the concern like one of his famous one-inch punches. "When have I ever let you down?" It's true. Bruce's previous film, The Big Boss, shattered box office records across Asia. Fist of Fury did even better. But this is different. This is Bruce unleashed, with complete creative control. And apparently, that control extends to defying gravity. The crew begins to gather. Word spreads quickly on a film set, especially when Bruce Lee is about to attempt something impossible. Grips abandon their equipment. Makeup artists set down their brushes. Even the catering staff peers out from behind the craft services table. Within minutes, 47 people form a semicircle around the designated filming area. The wall in question stands 14 feet high, painted a flat gray to eliminate shadows. It's perfectly smooth concrete, offering no handholds, no grip, nothing but an unforgiving vertical surface. At its base, the props department has placed thick gymnastic mats, just in case. "Just in case of what?" mutters John Chang, the first assistant director. He's worked on 37 action films. He's seen performers fall, break bones, and knock themselves unconscious, but he's never seen anyone attempt what Bruce is describing. Bruce begins his warm-up routine, and even this is a spectacle. His movements flow like water, each stretch transitioning seamlessly into the next. His breathing is controlled, rhythmic. There's something almost meditative about it. The chatter on set dies down to whispers, then to nothing. Everyone watches, mesmerized. Okay, here's what's gonna happen, Bruce announces, his voice carrying easily across the warehouse. I'm going to run at the wall, transition to horizontal, and maintain that position for approximately 8 steps, maybe 9 if the angle feels right. Silence. You're going to run up the wall, someone asks from the back. Not up, Bruce corrects. Across, parallel to the ground, like the wall is the floor. More silence. Then nervous laughter. Then silence again as people realize he's serious. Robert Klaus wipes sweat from his forehead despite the industrial fans. He's filmed in the Sahara, in the Amazon, in conditions that would break most cinematographers. But he's never felt pressure like this. How do you capture something that shouldn't exist? Bruce, he says carefully. The Mitchell can handle standard action. But if you're moving at the speed I think you're suggesting, we might have a problem. This is the understatement of the decade. 11:58 a.m. The set is ready. The camera is positioned at a perfect 45-degree angle to capture both Bruce's approach and his supposed wall run. Robert Klaus has his eye pressed to the viewfinder, hands steady despite the sweat making his palms slick. The focus puller stands ready, prepared to adjust for movement that hasn't been mapped because nobody knows what's about to happen. Sound, speed, camera, rolling, scene 47, take 1, CLP. Bruce explodes into motion. The human eye can process images at roughly 1,000 frames per second. The brain interprets this stream of information, creating our perception of fluid movement. But what happens when someone moves faster than the brain expects? When the impossible suddenly becomes visible, Bruce hits the wall at full speed. His right foot makes contact first, but instead of bouncing off or sliding down as physics demands, it sticks. His body rotates, defying every law Newton ever wrote. His left foot follows, then his right again, each step carrying him horizontally across the vertical surface. For a moment, a beautiful, impossible moment, Bruce Lee runs parallel to the ground, his body perfectly horizontal, his face a mask of absolute concentration. Then it's over. He pushes off the wall, lands in a perfect crouch on the mats, and stands up as casually as if he'd just stepped off a bus. The set erupts, not in applause but in confusion, shouting, arguing, pointing. Did you see? That's not possible. He must have. How did he? Robert Klaus hasn't moved. His eye is still pressed to the viewfinder, his hand still on the camera controls. Slowly, very slowly, he pulls back. We have a problem, he announces. The playback tells the story. At 24 frames per second, Bruce's wall run looks like a series of disconnected still images, a blur approaching the wall, a shadow that might be a person, a streak of motion that could be anything or nothing. The camera, the pinnacle of 1972 filming technology, simply cannot process Bruce Lee moving at full speed. It looks like a special effect, Samo says, studying the playback monitor. A bad special effect. Bruce watches the footage, his face unreadable. Then he turns to Robert. What do you need? I need you to slow down, the cinematographer says. A lot. Dr. James Chen arrives on set at 12:15 p.m. He teaches physics at the University of Hong Kong and serves as an informal science advisor for Golden Harvest Studios. Raymond Chow called him in desperation, hoping for an explanation that doesn't involve suspending the laws of nature. Dr. Chen watches the playback footage 3 times. He pulls out a notebook, scribbles calculations, he measures angles, estimates velocities, checks and double-checks his math. Finally he looks up. It's impossible, he says simply. We just watched him do it, Samo protests. No, Dr. Chen corrects. You watched something happen, but what Mr. Lee is doing, it requires a coefficient of friction that doesn't exist. The human body can't generate enough lateral force to maintain that position. The angle of momentum needed. He trails off, staring at his calculations as if they've personally offended him. Bruce steps forward. Doctor, with respect, you're thinking in terms of ordinary human limitations. Physics doesn't care about your limitations, Mr. Lee. Gravity is a constant. Is it? Bruce asks. And there's something in his voice that makes everyone lean in. What if the limitation isn't in the laws of physics, but in our understanding of how to work with them? He demonstrates in slow motion, breaking down the technique. The approach angle, precisely 23 degrees. The initial contact point, exactly 5.4 feet up the wall. The rotation of his hips converts forward momentum into lateral force. The micro-adjustments in each step maintain the impossible balance between gravity and motion. You're not fighting gravity, Bruce explains. You're redirecting it, like water flowing around a rock. Dr. Chen watches, his scientific skepticism warring with the evidence of his eyes. He makes more notes, draws diagrams. Finally, he throws his hands up. It still shouldn't work. The muscle fibers required, the reaction time, the precise control. You'd need to be operating at a level of physical capability that's superhuman, Bruce suggests with a slight smile. The physicist doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. Lunch has been postponed indefinitely. Nobody wants to eat anyway. The entire crew is caught up in the electric atmosphere of witnessing history. Robert Klaus has made adjustments. He's changed lenses, adjusted the aperture, and done everything possible to capture faster movement. But he knows it won't be enough if Bruce performs at full speed. "We need you at about 60% speed," he tells Bruce. "Maybe 50%. Bruce nods, understanding the technical limitations even as they chafe against his nature. Asking Bruce Lee to slow down is like asking the sun to dim its light. It goes against everything he is. Scene 47, take 2. His movements, usually fluid as water, look jerky and unnatural. He makes it 3 steps across the wall before the reduced momentum causes him to drop. He lands on the mats, unhurt but clearly frustrated. This is the problem with being extraordinary. Sometimes the world literally cannot keep up. It doesn't work at reduced speed, Bruce explains to the gathered crew. The technique requires a certain velocity to maintain the angular momentum. Too slow and gravity wins. Samo nods knowingly. He's experienced this problem before with Bruce. Traditional wire work can fake the appearance of wall running, but it looks exactly like what it is, a person being pulled by wires. What Bruce does is different. It's real. And reality, it turns out, is harder to film than fiction. What if Robert Klaus begins, then stops? It's a crazy idea. Expensive. Complicated. But maybe. What if we run the camera faster, he continues, much faster, then play it back at normal speed? In modern filmmaking, this is standard practice. High-speed cameras capture hundreds or thousands of frames per second, allowing directors to slow down action to bullet time perfection. But in 1972, with mechanical film cameras, it was a significant technical challenge. How much faster? Raymond Chow asks, already calculating costs in his head. Robert does quick mental math. To properly capture the movement, we'd need to run the film at approximately 80 frames per second, maybe more. That's more than triple normal speed, the producer says weakly. 3.3 times, to be exact, Dr. Chen chimes in. Having joined the technical discussion, it would consume film at an astronomical rate. Film stock in 1972 wasn't cheap. Running the camera at 3.3 GoA speed means burning through $500 worth of film for every minute of shooting. For a production with a shoestring budget, it's a massive risk. Bruce speaks up. "I'll cover the extra cost personally if needed." Everyone turns to stare. Bruce's salary for the entire film is only $7,500 USD. He's offering to potentially spend a significant portion of that just to capture this one sequence properly. "That's not necessary," Raymond says, though his relief is visible. "If you can really do this, it'll be worth every penny." 2:45 p.m. The camera has been modified to run at 80 frames per second. The film magazines have been loaded with fresh stock. The entire set has been cleared except for essential personnel, though somehow that still includes nearly 40 people who have declared themselves essential to witness this moment. Bruce stands alone in the center of the space, eyes closed, breathing steadily. To observers, he appears to be meditating. In reality, he's doing something far more complex. In his mind, Bruce is running the sequence over and over, not just the physical movements but the mental state required. He's talked about this in interviews, the importance of emotional content, of putting your whole self into every movement. But this requires something beyond even that. This requires temporarily rewriting his relationship with physical reality. Yip Man, Bruce's Wing Chun master, once told him, "The mind is the primary force. The body is merely the vehicle." Bruce took this lesson and evolved it into something uniquely his own. If the mind believes something strongly enough, if the intention is pure enough, if the focus is absolute, then perhaps the impossible becomes merely difficult. Angela Mao, Bruce's co-star, watches from behind the cameras. She's performed alongside him in dozens of fight scenes, witnessed his speed and power firsthand, but there's something different about him today, an intensity that borders on the supernatural. "I've never seen him like this," she whispers to Nora Miao, another co-star. "It's like he's somewhere else entirely," Nora agrees. "Somewhere the rules are different." Bruce's eyes snap open. In that moment, everyone on set feels it, a shift in the air, a charge of electricity that has nothing to do with the overhead lights. He doesn't speak, doesn't need to. Everyone knows it's time. Robert Klaus makes final adjustments to the camera. His hands are steady now. This is what he lives for, capturing the impossible, preserving moments that shouldn't exist. The modified camera sounds different at high speed, its mechanical heart beating faster than designed, straining against its limitations just as Bruce is about to strain against his. "Last looks," the assistant director calls out, though nobody needs makeup or wardrobe adjustments. This isn't about looking good. This is about redefining what humans can do. Bruce takes his position, 30 feet from the wall, far enough to build the necessary speed, close enough that the camera can capture the entire run. He bounces lightly on his toes, weight shifting from foot to foot. His hands hang loose at his sides. To the casual observer, he looks relaxed. Those who know him recognize the calm before the storm. Sound, speed, camera, rolling at 80 frames per second. Scene 47, take 3. The clapper loader steps forward. This is Tommy Wong, a 19-year-old kid on his first major film. His hands shake slightly as he raises the slate. He's about to mark the moment that physics textbooks will pretend didn't happen. Clap. Time dilates in moments of extreme action. Ask any athlete, any soldier, any person who's been in a car accident. The brain, flooded with adrenaline, processes information faster. Seconds stretch into minutes. The impossible becomes visible. For the 47 witnesses in Golden Harvest Studios, the next 8 seconds unfold like a dream. Bruce explodes forward. Not runs, explodes. His first 3 steps cover 15 feet. His body leans forward at an angle that should send him tumbling face first into the concrete. But physics, it seems, has agreed to look the other way. He hits the wall with his right foot at exactly 5.4 feet high. The sound, a sharp crack like a whip, echoes through the warehouse. But Bruce is already rotating, his body pivoting on an axis that exists outside normal three-dimensional space. His left foot finds the wall, then his right again. But now he's not climbing, he's running parallel to the ground. His body is perfectly horizontal, held in place by forces that Dr. Chen's equations insist don't exist. 1 step, 2, 3. Angela Mao's hand flies to her mouth. Sammo Hung takes an involuntary step backward. Someone drops a coffee mug, the second one today, but the shattering goes unnoticed. 4 steps, 5, 6. Bruce's face is a study in absolute concentration. Every muscle in his body is engaged, creating a harmony of motion that transcends normal human capability. He's not fighting gravity, he's dancing with it, leading it in directions it's never gone before. 7 steps, 8, 9. On the 9th step, Bruce pushes off, his body rotating back to vertical as he arcs through the air. He lands in a perfect 3-point stance on the mats, one hand touching the ground for balance. For a moment, nobody moves, nobody breathes. Then Bruce stands up, and the spell breaks. The warehouse erupts, not into applause, that will come later. First comes disbelief, shouting. People are pointing at the wall as if expecting to see footprints burned into the concrete. Dr. Chen frantically checked his calculations, muttering about impossibilities. Sammo Hung laughed hysterically, the sound tinged with a touch of madness. But Robert Klaus stays focused. He rewinds the film, plays it back through the viewfinder. At 80 frames per second, they've captured everything. Bruce's approach, the impossible transition, each gravity-defying step across the wall. When played back at normal speed, 24 frames per second, it will look like Bruce is moving in slow motion, still impossibly fast, but now visible to human perception. Did we get it? Bruce asks, not even breathing hard. Robert pulls back from the camera, his eyes wide with something between awe and fear. We got it, he confirms. God help us, we got it. 3:15 p.m. The footage has been reviewed a dozen times. Each viewing brings new gasps, new moments of disbelief. At 3.3x slow motion, the technique becomes visible, though no less impossible. Bruce's approach speed, approximately 23 miles per hour, the force of his initial wall contact, 4.7 times his body weight, the angle of his body during the horizontal run, exactly 90 degrees to the wall, 0 degrees to the ground, the duration of sustained wall running, 2.7 seconds, the number of steps, 9. Dr. Chen has given up on his calculations. His notebook lies abandoned, filled with equations that prove what they just witnessed cannot happen. The human body isn't capable of generating the necessary adhesion, he mutters to anyone who will listen. The muscle fibers would tear, the joints would dislocate. The doctor, Bruce interrupts gently. You're thinking in terms of limits. I'm thinking in terms of possibilities. It's a philosophy that defines Bruce's entire life. Where others see barriers, he sees challenges. Where others accept human limitations, he asks why those limitations exist. It's what drove him to create Jeet Kune Do. It's what pushed him to break Hollywood's racial barriers. It's what allows him to run on walls when physics says he can't. Raymond Chow watches the footage again. Dollar signs replacing the shock in his eyes. This sequence alone will sell the movie. Hell, it'll sell the entire concept of martial arts cinema to the world. But there's a problem. We can never show this at normal speed, he realizes aloud. People won't believe it. They'll think it's a camera trick. He's right. When Way of the Dragon releases later that year, the wall run sequence will be shown at various speeds, but never at the true velocity Bruce achieved, even slowed down to 3.3x. Audiences will gasp. Critics will claim it must be wire work, special effects, or camera trickery. The truth, that Bruce Lee simply decided gravity didn't apply to him for 2.7 seconds, is too much for the world to accept. Present, Raymond, Robert Klaus, Bruce, and 2 executives from Golden Harvest. We need to control this narrative, one executive says. If word gets out about what really happened today, what are you afraid of? Bruce asks. That people will know the truth? The truth is too much, Raymond says carefully. Bruce, what you did today, it challenges everything people believe about human capability. We need to present it in a way that's digestible. And so begins one of Hollywood's most successful cover-ups. Not of scandal or failure, but of achievement. The official story will be that Bruce performed an impressive but explainable stunt. The wall run will be attributed to clever angles, hidden wires, and camera tricks. The 3.3 knob speed adjustment will be explained as an artistic choice, not a technical necessity. The crew members present will be asked to sign additional confidentiality agreements. Not that it matters. Who would believe them anyway? I saw Bruce Lee run horizontally on a wall for 9 steps without wires. Sounds like the rambling of a crazy person or a devoted fan. The raw footage, showing Bruce at actual speed, will be locked away in Golden Harvest's vault. Some say it was eventually destroyed. Others claim it still exists, waiting for a world ready to accept what human beings are truly capable of. Dr. Chen returns to his university office that evening a changed man. He sits at his desk, staring at his physics textbooks as if they've betrayed him. Everything he knows, says what he witnessed, is impossible. But he was there. He saw it. He measured it. Over the following weeks, he'll quietly research similar phenomena. He'll discover stories of Shaolin monks who could run up walls, of parkour athletes who briefly defied gravity, of moments when human intention seemed to override physical law. But nothing on the scale of what Bruce achieved. He'll write a paper, Anomalous Adhesion and Momentum Redirection, in high-speed human locomotion, but never submit it for publication. How do you peer-review the impossible? Years later, after Bruce's death, Dr. Chen will give occasional lectures on the physics of martial arts. He'll explain the biomechanics of punching, the leverage involved in throws, and the conservation of energy in blocks and strikes. But he never mentions the wall run. When asked directly, he simply says, "Some things must be seen to be believed." And even then, in the decades following the release of Way of the Dragon, hundreds of martial artists and stunt performers would attempt to recreate Bruce Lee's wall run. They'll use wires, hidden supports, CGI, and every trick available. Some will create convincing illusions. None will match the raw impossibility of the original. Jackie Chan, who worked as a stuntman on Bruce's films, will later say, "Bruce didn't just break boards or bricks. He broke our understanding of what was possible." That wall run, we all tried to figure out how he did it. The answer was simple and impossible. He just did it. Sammo Hung will build his entire directing career on the foundation of what he learned that day, that the impossible is just another word for not yet done. He'll push his performers to their limits, always chasing the ghost of Bruce's footsteps on that wall. The stunt community will develop a saying, "Wire work is what we do when we can't find another Bruce Lee." But what does it cost to be impossible? To exist at the intersection of human and superhuman? Those close to Bruce will later speak of the toll. The constant training bordered on obsession, the dietary restrictions that would make modern athletes blanch, the mental discipline required hours of meditation daily, the physical pain he simply ignored, treating his body like a machine that could be pushed beyond all rational limits. Linda Lee, Bruce's wife, will write in her memoirs, "People saw the demonstrations, the amazing feats. They didn't see him collapse from exhaustion afterwards. They didn't see the ice baths, the acupuncture sessions, the times he could barely walk because he'd pushed too hard." Being Bruce Lee was a full-time job that no normal person could survive. The wall run, she'll reveal, left Bruce's legs severely cramped for 3 days. The force required to maintain that horizontal position had pushed his muscles beyond their design limits. But on set, immediately after, he showed no sign of distress. The legend couldn't afford to look human. 5:30 p.m. The sun sets over Hong Kong, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. The crew of Way of the Dragon begins to pack up, but slowly, reluctantly. Everyone knows they've witnessed something special, something that may never be repeated. Bruce stands on the studio loading dock, looking out over the city. Angela Mao joins him, still processing what she saw. "How?" she asks simply. Bruce considers the question. How do you explain the unexplainable? How do you put into words the moment when belief becomes reality? "My whole life," he says finally, "people told me what I couldn't do. Too small to be a leading man. Too Chinese for Hollywood. Too Western for Hong Kong. Too fast for cameras to film." He smiles. "I decided to stop listening." It's a simple answer that explains nothing and everything. The wall run wasn't about physics or biomechanics or superhuman ability. It was about a man who refused to accept the word impossible. Angela nods, understanding without understanding. This is the Bruce Lee effect. He makes you believe that maybe, just maybe, the limits you've accepted your whole life are optional. As they head back inside, Bruce pauses at the door. He looks back at the wall, just an ordinary concrete wall that for 2.7 seconds today became a floor. Tomorrow, painters will cover it with a fresh coat, erasing any evidence of footprints that shouldn't exist. But the memory will remain, burned into the minds of 47 witnesses who saw a man politely decline gravity's invitation. "Bruce," Angela calls. "Coming." "In a moment," he says. He stands there, alone now, facing the wall. Without warning, he sprints forward, leaps, and places one foot on the vertical surface. For just an instant, a fraction of a second, he holds the position. Then gravity reasserts itself, and he drops lightly to the ground. A security guard, watching from across the warehouse, rubs his eyes. Did he just see? No. Impossible. Must have been a trick of the light. Bruce walks away, a slight smile on his face. Tomorrow, the world will see a slowed-down version of something that shouldn't exist. They'll analyze it, debate it, try to explain it away. But for 47 people in a Hong Kong warehouse, the truth is simpler and more profound. Bruce Lee decided to run on a wall, so he did. Some call it movie magic, others call it wire work. The witnesses call it what it was, the day Bruce Lee broke reality. And somewhere in a vault in Hong Kong, the unedited footage waits. Right in 3 seconds of a man moving too fast for 1972's technology to comprehend. Proof that human limitations are more suggestion than law. Evidence that sometimes, just sometimes, believing you can do something impossible is the first step to doing it. The legend of Bruce Lee includes many moments of superhuman ability, the 1-inch punch, the 2-finger push-ups, the nunchaku ping-pong. But for those who were there on March 15, 1972, nothing compares to the wall run. Because while all his other feats pushed the boundaries of human capability, this one stepped outside them entirely. Bruce Lee didn't just run on a wall that day. He ran through the barrier between possible and impossible, leaving footprints in places feet should never touch. And in doing so, he left us with a question that echoes through the decades. If Bruce Lee could ignore gravity for 2.7 seconds, what invisible walls are we accepting in our own lives? The answer, like Bruce's footprints on that concrete wall, defies conventional wisdom. Maybe, just maybe, the most profound truth Bruce Lee ever taught us wasn't in his martial arts or his philosophy. Maybe it was simpler. Sometimes, the only difference between impossible and possible is deciding which one you believe in. And on that humid March day in Hong Kong, surrounded by witnesses who would spend the rest of their lives trying to explain what they saw, Bruce Lee believed he could run on walls. So he did.